This mod makes Birth by Sleep's combat system 2 times. No, actually, scratch that. 4 times more enjoyable to play. While I love Birth by Sleep and the command deck system, this game has a major glaring issue with its combat system that you notice almost immediately, especially back in the day going from Kingdom Hearts 2 into BBS. This would be animation delay, or the slow animations that play throughout Birth by Sleep. Because its combat system revolves around commands, these special type of attacks, the animations for which need to play out completely before you're able to move on to your next action. This makes the combat system of Birth by Sleep feel slower compared to other Kingdom Hearts games, and also not to mention that this was the first Kingdom Hearts game that introduced that floatiness factor that Osaka team became very known for. So although the prospect of having a Kingdom Hearts game on the PlayStation Portable back in the day was insanely cool and the story of Birth by Sleep was so good, jumping into BBS from Kingdom Hearts 2, a much faster paced Kingdom Hearts game and looking at its combat system, was a little bit jarring. Well, a mod known as Better Battle System, which yes, if shortened, is BBS, which is simply ingenious, created by Xendra, fixes the issues with Birth by Sleep's combat system tenfold. It is so much more enjoyable to play. This mod's actually been out since 2023, so for the past couple of years, I've been meaning to try it out, and I'm now kicking myself that I didn't try it out sooner, because
good God Almighty.
Although this isn't meant to be like a massive overhaul, how drastically it improves the combat system of this game is simply ridiculous. And oh my god, like trying to go back to regular Birth by Sleep after playing this mod is almost near impossible. It feels awful by comparison. It's surprising just how well this works in that like Square Enix didn't implement the changes that this mod introduces for the game from the very get-go, because the experience is just night and day. So what exactly does the Better Battle System mod do? Well, for starters, and most importantly, it introduces animation cancelling. Both guarding and dodging can now either shorten or completely cancel the animation of an attack during a combo or the animation of a command. So many of the command animations or even general attack animations, especially looking at Terra, leave you wide open as they play out for such a long time. 9 times out of 10 with Birth by Sleep, you're sitting there thinking, yeah, I just activated like a 4 to 5 second command animation and I know this enemy is charging up for an attack and there's simply nothing you can do about it. Well, now you can do something about it. If an enemy is about to attack you mid-command animation, simply just guard or dodge out of the way. Not only that, but also shortening the time that these animations play out for. A lot of the command attacks actually perform the attack and dish out the damage, but sometimes there's about a second or two where the animation cycle is still rolling. So now with animation cancelling, you can finally just cancel out of the last few frames of a command's animation as they're useless. There's no point for them to be there, you've already dished out the attack, let's move on to the next action. You can even shorten full-on finishes as well. Most attacks and commands can now be flowed into one another. Xendra labels this as combat flow. There's now no longer a delay between using commands consecutively, so now you can actually use them in quick succession. But you can now also string command abilities into your combo. So for example, if you start off with a 2-hit combo, then perform something like a Thunder Surge, the game will actually remember your place in the combo after you've finished performing Thunder Surge. This means that you can now smoothly transition from a combo into a command attack back into your combo, really honestly, the way it should have been from the get-go. It basically brings the regular combo system into the command deck system, which is interesting. I feel like Square Enix should have thought about this, as it introduces so much potential melding these two systems together. These are the 2 biggest changes that the mod offers, and are definitely the most important. Birth by Sleep starts feeling like a totally different game, and it's crazy just how different the combat pacing feels now with these 2 changes in effect. Like, holy shit, look at Aqua being a complete beast with the Ventus D-Link active with haste on. Oh my god, she is unstoppable. If we were to have a modern Kingdom Hearts title that would reintroduce the command deck system, there would be no excuses. The game would absolutely have to feel and play like better battle system. Oftentimes, the long dragged out animations without animation cancelling and not being able to flow your commands in with your base combo attacks really does make this combat system feel sluggish and oftentimes incredibly awkward. This is why when looking at the secret boss fights, especially Mysterious Figure, most people just resort to using the surge abilities, mainly Thunder Surge. The surge abilities are some of the quicker performing command attacks, along with also providing a good amount of iframes. Because something like Mysterious Figure can attack you so incredibly fast, but yet you're locked into these long dragged out animations for your special hard hitting moves, there are times where you kind of think, yeah, BBS doesn't really feel like it was totally balanced correctly, or at least the combat system sometimes doesn't feel like it matches the way that this boss operates, especially when looking at Terra. Terra is infamously the harder character to play out of the three, mainly because of his slower, long dragged out combat animations. And also, his dodge is hot ass in comparison to Aqua and Ventus's, as it doesn't provide constant iframes as there is a delay between finishing a dodge and beginning a new one. Sure, he covers much more distance, but this doesn't really account for anything when there isn't consistent iframes due to that recovery period between dodges. Now, better battle system doesn't improve Terra's dodge, but with the changes like combat flow and animation cancelling, ooh, man, Terra is that much more enjoyable to play. Good God, he's actually a beast. On top of his harder hitting attacks, he can now just perform basically everything that much more quicker. And he now finally feels incredibly satisfying to play. Additional iframes have now been added to the command style animation, so when transitioning into a command style, you can no longer get caught out from an attack while you're locked in to the animation. Iframes have also been added to a lot of the slower performing attacks like Zentei or Geo Impact. Although these attacks are incredibly powerful, most people choose not to use them because they leave you incredibly wide open as they take such a long time to dish the actual attack out. This means that you can now use these long dragged out animations to completely avoid attacks. Another massive change here is the field of view. The camera has been brought back. Now, we've talked about a mod that does this exact thing created by Key to Truth in the past before, and this change in itself offers a totally new experience to BBS. Because the game was originally a PlayStation Portable title, I understand why the camera was so close to the playable character. Of course, now, most are no longer playing the game on PSP, but rather on big screens. So to accommodate that, the game just feels so much better with the camera brought back to give us more of a Kingdom Hearts 2 or 3 perspective when looking at the FOV. What's cool is it's kind of dynamic, so when you enter into an area, the camera will be at its default value, quite close to the character, but as soon as you start attacking an enemy, dodging, guarding, etc., the camera then gets drawn back. There's also a few changes to critical mode, so you now gain 2 times the amount of command points, so the experience for your commands, on top of money. Critical chance is increased, so the probability of landing a critical hit, though this is at the cost of lower defense. You now recover from status effects a lot quicker, and you now start the game off with reload boost and second chance. And to have second chance from the get-go is kind of game-changing to the early critical mode experience, as there are a ton of enemies in the early game that can hit you with an attack that can negate more than half of your HP. So this will save you from getting one-clapped quite often. So it's a relatively simple mod, but for how simple it is, it's just insane how different of an experience it provides for the game. But although it does work well most of the time, there are a few bugs here. For dealing finishes that require you to use either square or circle, this will cancel you out of the finisher itself, but the actual graphics and UI of that finisher will remain on your screen until you switch areas. If you unequip guard and spam both attack and square, you can basically fly. This can be used as almost a tech of sorts, allowing you to reach out of reach places early on in the game. This happens because of the animation cancelling, so even if you don't have block equipped, the game can still cancel animations by pressing square. I came across this funny one with the Pete D-Link finisher. If you were to press square while you're doing your drifties, yeah, the car just kind of spins around you, and you've just got this cool drifting effect happening around the character. Unfortunately, it doesn't dish out damage, and I also have lost my Keyblade. I don't know where it's gone. It looks cool, though. You can cancel out of the death animation when you die from, like, a boss, which leads to some incredibly hilarious results. Although it's very hard to do, you can cancel out of Zantetsuken, and if you do this at the exact perfect time, the time stop effect will be permanently active. What's cool about this is any projectile-based attacks that you perform will be frozen in time, but you can actually resume time by either performing Zantetsuken again or activating a D-Link. Yeah, as you can see, if you perform too many projectile attacks and then resume, the game's just gonna implode on itself. But honestly though, most of these bugs are more hilarious than anything else. I don't really care that I can't perform some of the D-Link finishes. I prefer to just indulge in this improved combat system. This is hands down the best Birth by Sleep mod, and for anyone that is playing the game on PC, yes, I absolutely recommend that you give it a try. Now, I have heard that apparently the mod isn't working on the EGS version of the game. I'm playing here on Steam, though I did have a little bit of trouble installing it via using Lua backend. Rather than manually installing the files, the only way that I could get it to work was installing the Lua through the OpenKH Mod Manager, so I recommend doing it that way. When you're setting up the OpenKH Mod Manager, make sure to install Panacea and configure the game for use with Lua backend. These are just simple checkboxes that you select while you're going through the install wizard of the mod manager. Once you've set that up, just simply click on install mod and select the Better Battle System Lua file. From there, click build and run, and you're good to go. Shout out to Xendra for the hard work on this. It is truly game changing, like quite literally. I recommend anyone to give it a shot. Thanks so much for tuning in to today's video. Be sure to slippity slap that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. Big shout out to my wonderful patrons and YouTube members. The support means a ton to me, so thank you guys so much. I hope you're all having a fantastic day, and we'll talk again real soon.